All right. Thought my camera was on, but apparently not. What is up, my friends? Good to see you all. Mr. X Dreams here, and this is my Horrorcon VR panel show slash live stream. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes for whoever's going to be filtering in, and let's check the chat real quick to see who's around. Brian's World, hola hermano. Nicole, Sleepy, Casual Conversations, My 23, Mr. Creepypasta in the house. Hello there, my friend. Sans Seraph, Audionic Music, The Right Hand of Doom, Master Panda, Nightmare Dreams, a fellow dream person, as I can see. Good to see you all, and in just a couple of minutes, what's up, Lee Underhill? Good to see you. In the meantime, as we wait for a couple people to sort of filter in and figure out, despite my late notice, that I'm actually doing a show tonight, I've got a confession to make. If you did see all the fanfare about the VR Horrorcon that was been coming up, and it's been going on for since yesterday, actually, that MCP himself actually has been a huge proponent in setting this up. It's something I've been kind of wishing would happen for years now, and unfortunately, because of the way things are, can't really do a giant con with YouTube narrators in person. But the next best thing is something MCP was able to graciously and quite a lot of talent went into this, and a lot of management and preparation and people communicating. It's really impressive what they've been able to produce with this whole team of people. And it's a virtual VR type of con. That's the best thing we can do right now, honestly. And it's going pretty, it seems to be really interesting right now. I've been putzing around and trying to figure out despite my old man tendencies that I have. But yeah, if you did see the fanfare and the website and all that stuff with the VR Horrorcon, you would see that I had a certain plan for what I was going to do tonight for this show. And I have to admit that I've changed the plan completely, because I was going to do some classic stories, some of my favorite stories from the archives, but I was able to actually go through my emails, and a couple of new emails came in with some really interesting and very creepy stories that I decided to share with you all tonight. And I've got sound effects and ambient music and stuff like that ready for you. And if I can pull it all off, I've never been able to do this before, but Horrorcon VR seems like a good chance for me to test my mettle as an entertainer and see if I can get all this lined up. I got all these sound effects and everything lined up for you guys, cues for myself, so hopefully it's going to be a really cool show, something that I've never done before. All right, who else we got here? I'm going to get started in just a second. Miss Reina, Jerry Hernandez, Dice89, Jessica B, and Lynn. Good evening, my friends. Hello there, and I'm glad to see you all here. All right, so in just a minute, I'm going to pull this up and get into this first story. All right, it's time to stop the music. Get into that. Get into the more ambient type stuff. Let's see here. Where do I got that? All right. Okay, so what we have lined up for tonight, it's something of a ghostly encounter, story number 1. A pretty high tier glitch in the matrix situation, which is one of my favorite types of things to think about. And lastly, we're going to have a possible suspected cryptid encounter of some kind. You tell me. We're going to discuss each story after I read it and see what you guys think. Most of you are going to be on YouTube. I don't know if anybody's in a VR scenario watching this. I think there's something, like I said, I'm an old man. I don't really know how all that stuff works that well. You should see in the description links to the Horrorcon VR website and the Twitter, so you can get into the Discord to actually get in and experience the VR con for yourself. And it's going all weekend. So make sure you all do that as well. And in the meantime, I'm going to get into these stories. So, right now, I want you to sit back, relax, and let's explore this strange realm that lies somewhere between the reality that we know and the ones hidden beyond normal sight. All right, I'm going to engage my special top secret story mode for this. I'll see you guys on the other side of story number 1. Story number 1. Dear Mr. X, my name is Jake. I've been thinking about sharing this story for a while, but only now have I gotten the nerve to send it. I just want someone to hear me out, and I can't keep this encounter to myself anymore. I consider myself a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, but no matter how hard I try, I can't explain what I saw this one night. Though I'm much more connected to my Greek heritage, I also have the blood of the Irish running through my veins. This story presented me with a glimpse into the unknown I'll never forget, something I believe my Irish ancestors may have known all too well. Due to the sickness that's been going around, you know, the one that might get your video into trouble if I talk too much about it. I had to go the whole summer without seeing my boyfriend, Andrew. What made things even worse was that his grandmother passed away during that time. He was so distraught over it that I had never had the heart to ask him how or why she died. Believe me, I've tried to broach the subject, but he can't seem to handle it even now, months later. Anyway, since we had to spend so much time apart, I wanted to do something to lift his spirits. I decided to buy a small promise ring to celebrate our 4th anniversary of the day we met, which also happened to be his birthday. As a surprise, I booked us a trip to Kilkenny for a weekend away from all the depressing stuff. We took a train to a fancy hotel. I spared no expense, even ordering wine and other luxurious things like that. By the time we checked into the hotel, the heat had gotten to us pretty bad. Andrew jumped straight into the shower, which gave me some time to plan out how to present him with the ring. I was so nervous that I actually said a prayer, asking my little brother to give me strength. My brother was named Luke. He was stillborn when I was about 4 years old. I've always harbored a lot of guilt, survivor's guilt, because we both had our umbilical cords wrapped around our necks. Somehow I made it through that, but my brother wasn't so lucky. By the time he got out of the shower, I was ready to give him the ring. I'll never forget the smile he had on his face as I slipped it onto his finger. I wish the night had ended there with all the joy of that moment. But this time, unlike my brother, I would be the unlucky one. We spent the evening watching bad movies, making fun and having a great time. Before I knew it, though, we were both asleep in front of the TV. I'll never forget the horrid screech that woke me up. I checked my phone. It was 3:45 in the morning. In the haze of sleep, confused, I wasn't sure if I've imagined that horrific sound. After a few seconds, I slowly drifted back to sleep. Andrew is a much heavier sleeper than me. He could probably sleep through an earthquake, so I wasn't counting on him to have heard anything. Just as my eyes finally began to fall shut, I heard it again, except this time it was closer I tried to shake Andrew awake, but he just rolled over without waking up. Summoning all the strength I could, fighting through the sleepy fog, I crawled my way to the curtains and pulled them open. I thought the sound had come from near the window. I looked outside and saw the streetlights shining dimly on the road. It was obviously still dark out. My eyes, still adjusting to the light, scrolled over to my left. It was at that moment my body froze. Just an arm's length away from me, a young woman with matted red hair stood. Just behind the curtains, she wore a long, dingy-looking skirt, like you often see in drawings of the famine long ago. She seemed obviously out of place. All I could do was stare. I didn't feel fear as much as I felt pity. Rather than wonder who she was or why she was there, I asked myself if there was some way I could help her. After a few seconds of unnatural silence, her face turned toward me. She stared back at me with dark, shadowed eyes. She screamed again, startling me out of a false sense of peace. I flailed my arms, slamming the curtains shut. They settled and I scrambled to pull them away, but the woman was gone as suddenly as she appeared. About 3 weeks later, I received a call from my great-aunt in Cyprus, who's always been like a grandmother to me. She told me that my uncle Giannis had passed away after a long battle with leukemia. I never told Andrew what I saw that night. I really don't see the point of making my boyfriend think I'm crazy. I'll admit it. Sometimes I consider the possibility myself. I've done research into screaming female apparitions and came across your channel along with other information on the creature I saw, which I now believe to be a Banshee. As far as I'm aware, the Banshee is said to cry for only 5 major Irish families: the O'Neills, the O'Briens, O'Connors, O'Grady's, and the Kavanaghs. I don't know of any kinship I have with any of these families, so perhaps that bit may be up for debate. Interestingly enough, though, Andrew has the surname Kavanagh. Maybe the Banshee knows more than I give her credit for. After all, I do plan on one day tying the knot with Andrew, but I hope I never have to see that Banshee ever again. If that brief encounter could haunt me so deeply, always looming in the back of my mind, I'd hate to imagine a lifetime of her screaming from the shadows. Thanks for listening, Mr. X. Jake. All right. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that first story. It's something that kind of struck me because Jake, I kind of got to thinking of what might be behind the fact that this Banshee, even though he doesn't happen to be part of these 5 Irish families, although that part's a little debatable because how far can you go? How many generations can you go without intermingling somewhere along the line? Even if it's not obvious, even if it's not just a known thing that you have that surname or your cousin or your uncle had it, there's probably a little bit of one of those bloodlines in pretty much everyone. I'm part Irish way back, and I'm sure one of those 5 families, those great high-level families, had something to do with my genetic material that ended up in me. So, but it almost gives you this feeling that perhaps the Banshee knows that someday Jake's family and the Kavanaghs, the surname of his boyfriend, would someday be intertwined, which is an interesting idea. And something that kind of crossed my mind when I was looking at this, but just imagining the feeling of, I've been in many hotels, many a night. Usually I'm alone in the hotel room, which would make it even worse, but the feeling or the thought of someone or something being in that small confined space that's supposed to be very private and very much you on your own, it's super creepy to me. I bet a couple of you thought so as well. Let's see, I'll check the chat. Anybody have any, and like I said, like always, if you're new to my live stream setups, if you have any questions or comments about the stories, you can throw them in the chat or well, yeah, pretty much that's the only thing I can see right now at this moment. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, the little sound effects. I worked really hard on those things. So let me know what you thought about those. Yeah, let's see here. Got a couple new visitors in the chat here. Leanne, thanks so much for the super chat. Oh my goodness. Got Raul Sanchez, Kid Frankie, Aerobeezy. What's up, my friend? Good to see you. Zia Possum. Awesome. Awesome Possum. Leanne says, stopping by to show support. Catch up with the video later. Go have a good night all. Sounds good, my friend. Thank you so much for the super chat, and I'll talk to you later. Hope you enjoy the show when you see it. All right. So, looks like somebody's saying I'm lagging a little bit. I'm getting pretty good numbers on my end as far as I can see. Let me know if there's any problems throughout the show, and I'll see if I can address those. All right, so we're going to move right along into the second story, which is a very interesting one. Another one of those another one of the genre of stories. One of my favorites, Glitch in the Matrix. As many of you know, if you've followed me for long enough, you've probably heard this story 10 times. I've had a bit of a glitch in the matrix situation myself when I was a young man, and yeah, maybe we'll chat about that a little bit later, maybe after the story, we'll see. But we're going to get right into this one. This comes from a dear subscriber, fellow dreamer. By the way, thanks to Jake for sending that previous story to me in my email and sharing that with us to give us something to think about, something to talk about. Very interesting stuff. But now we're going to move on to Lauren's story. Story time, engage. Hello, Mr. X. My name is Lauren. What I'm about to share with you may seem a bit mundane to some, but as the person it happened to, I find it to be truly mind-bending. Even as I write to you, recalling everything, it starts to hit me about how bizarre the feeling was in the moment. I've read about these stories commonly called glitches in the matrix or what have you. I always thought they were entertaining, but I never took them seriously. I always told myself surely there must have been a mistake or an oversight somewhere to explain this. But I am here to tell you, in fact, I challenge you, I implore you, to tell me how a story like mine could have had a rational explanation. In other words, I hope that someone, anyone, can tell me how these events might have played out in a way fitting with the laws of physics and time as we know them. As far as I can imagine, there's really no way. No way. Still, I'll let you and your listeners decide. I'm a 30-something-year-old female and living with my sister who's a few years older than me. She has 2 children, ages 5 and 2. One day recently, my sister was in the living room where the kids were quietly playing with their toys, while a children's TV show was on in the background. I was in the nook area of our house, where I have a sewing machine set up. I was working on one of my hobbies, sewing clothes for dolls. The nook is well within earshot of the living room, but the floor plan of the house is such that I didn't have a line of sight there to see the kids while I worked. My sister told me she was tired and needed to take a nap, nominating me the de facto babysitter on duty. It wasn't the first time she would doze off right there on the couch while the kids played. It's a pretty safe setup with nothing hazardous in the areas accessible to the kids. For that reason, I felt pretty much okay in the nook, staying there and listening to the children while I continued my sewing. I remember telling myself that they would be fine without me breathing down their necks. Of course, it was only a matter of moments before this decision proved to be the irresponsible choice. My 2-year-old niece came to me crying, with her right arm outstretched and her index finger pointed and absolutely leaking blood. It was a startling amount of blood for a little toddler. I suppressed the urge to panic, but the sight definitely got my heart rate going and threw my mind into emergency mode right away. I took her to the kitchen sink and washed her hand, but she was still bleeding profusely. I knew we were out of bandages in the house, but I hoped my sister would have some in the car. I put the baby on my hip and ran into the garage, searching the car with my free hand. No bandages. I scoured the house and collected an assortment of makeshift supplies. I even dug out some painter's tape, gauze, and antibiotic cream from a drawer. My sister was starting to wake up from all the commotion, but she was so groggy she could barely help at all. Keep in mind, the bleeding 2-year-old on my hip was understandably upset and not very compliant as I tried to take a look at and dress her wound. I got the area wiped free of blood, and I could see the cut. Didn't seem like anything too serious. It looked to be a small cut on the underside of her index finger, nothing a little bandage couldn't handle. Her being a little ball of chaos that she is, I made 3 failed attempts to put the gauze on her finger with the tape. With the child still crying on my hip and 3 bloodied balls of gauze and tape, I decided there had to be a Band-Aid hidden somewhere in the house. I carried her around and searched every medicine cabinet, but no luck. It dawned on me to check the guest room of the house. My mom used to stay there a lot, and there had to be a Band-Aid in there, I thought. With my still bleeding and crying niece, I searched my mom's room. Nothing of use could be found. Out of total desperation, I crouched down, hoping that some stroke of luck there might be a Band-Aid underneath the bed or the nightstand. It was worth a shot at this point. All the way towards the back, up against the wall, I noticed the unmistakable shape of a folded sheet of Band-Aids. I stretched out my hand and struggled to avoid dropping my niece. Within seconds, I had one of the Band-Aids out of the paper wrapper and ready to apply. But when I grabbed her hand to put it on, expecting another tussle for control, I couldn't believe my eyes. I swear to you on everything that is good in this world, her hand was completely clean. I squeezed and pulled her skin and revealed not a trace of a scratch or bruise anywhere, not even a drop of blood. I knew it was her right hand that was cut, but just in case I checked her left. Still, absolutely nothing. That is impossible. Throughout all the struggling to bandage it, her cut ended up being a bit of a nasty, bloody mess with a gob of antibiotic ointment on top. But all of a sudden, her hands were completely clean. No trace of ever bleeding or any kind of cut at all. On my life, this happened. Now, can someone, anyone, please explain it to me? What the hell happened? Anyway, Mr. X, that's my glitch in the Matrix experience, or whatever you prefer to call it. Again, I give you my word that this happened, and it's entirely true, believe it or not. I don't know what to make of it, but I immediately thought of sharing it with you when it happened. Please let me know what you think, and thanks for all your work. Sincerely, Lauren. Wow, so that's yet another bizarre glitch in the Matrix case, as I tend to call it. Some people say Mandela effect. Some people just call it glitch. I don't know, but it is sort of a mundane case. But when you really think about it, put yourself in Lauren's shoes. Imagine being in this situation where you're dealing with a crying child, which many of us have, bleeding everywhere. You've got gauze and blood and stuff soaked up everywhere, and then all of a sudden, there's no wound. I've noticed that throughout my time doing these types of shows, I've come across a lot of these glitch stories involving young children, and it's very strange that this happens to them so often. There was a story that I had a while back. I would have to look through my archives to find it, but it was a story where a young child was walking across the street with her family, and I don't even know if it was a male or female, boy or girl, walking across the street with their family, and has the completely visceral experience and like brutal of getting hit by a car and literally dying in the street. And at some point, there's a flash or they blink, and suddenly now they're way back before they even got to that intersection, and they're just walking with their parents. It's really strange that happens again. There's another one where a young girl was going to the beach with her family, with her parents, yet again, and she gets into the water. She starts going out a little bit too far. Her parents are kind of just letting her go and do her thing. She gets pulled into the rip current, dragged under the water, and is drowning. But amidst the drowning, she feels hands grabbing onto her and pulling her. And after that sensation, she suddenly is now back to where she's holding her parents' hands, walking to the beach. So before they even got to the beach. So it's almost like she just got reset back to a safe point. And that's another one of those really mind-bending, trippy things. Makes you wonder, what is going on there? If there is such a thing as that, and I have a special place in my heart for these types of stories because I do have an experience, at least one solid experience that I would swear happened, but no one else involved seems to be able to acknowledge or seems to remember. So yeah, like I wonder if just most or all kids have like a save file or a quick start checkpoint video game style, that if something terrible happens, and obviously terrible things happen to children all the time, every day, but once in a while they reset and are able to avoid that from happening. Just really, really interesting stuff to think about. Let's check this chat real quick before we move on. Nancy, hello there, my friend. Nightmare Files in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Jarrett, thank you very much for the super chat, Jarrett. I appreciate that very much. Thanks a lot. And I don't know, is that a dancing pear or something like that? Not quite sure, but I dig it. I'll take it. Master Panda. Yeah, you remember the story about the beach, and that was pretty crazy indeed. It's one of my favorites, and one of the ones that really stick with me, hence the reason why I'm able to just kind of recall it off the top of my head. So, the last story that I have preset with there's a couple of little cool little sound effects in this one, and well, I had to reset my camera right there. Sorry about that. So this is the last story that I have already ready to go for you guys. If you want more stories, or if you want to, you can start putting in the chat right now if there's another type of story you'd like to hear me pull from the archives and read right now to finish out the rest of the time. But this one is a little bit longer than the other ones. So we'll see. We'll make it to the end of this one and see what we got by the time that's over. All right. So I'm going to get a drink of water real quick, and then we're going to get into this story. Story mode, engage. Dear Mr. X, I'm not sure why, but I've never told this story to a single person. Not ever. I feel like deep down, maybe I'm afraid of talking about it. Like talking about it might make the events I'm about to describe happen again somehow. Either way, I've been playing with the experience over and over in my head recently. I'm starting to wonder if perhaps explaining it to you and your listeners might help me feel a little bit better. Maybe you or someone who hears it from you can help me understand what this was. Before I begin my story, there are a few things I want to explain. I've been listening to Scary Encounters on YouTube since 2015. Not even sure how I got started. It just kind of happened. I've always had trouble sleeping at night ever since I was a child, and for some reason, scary stories bring me an odd sense of comfort most times. Maybe it's the fact that listening to them makes me feel safe by contrast or comparison. I don't know. This encounter, though, happened many years before I ever heard a scary story on YouTube. I had previously had one or two paranormal experiences in my life, so I wasn't totally uninitiated. I had an idea of what could exist in the darkness. I've always had a fascination with the unknown and hidden aspects of the world, the darkness itself, and what may or may not lie within. So, here's my story. This actually happened in 2011. I was visiting my home during the spring. My parents' home, that is. It's my first year of college. Late one night, probably after midnight, I decided to step out onto the back deck of my parents' house to smoke some green and listen to some music. A side note, this encounter was definitely not because of the smoking, I assure you. I know what you might be thinking. I'm a daily user and nothing like this ever happened to me before or since, even 10 years later. That being said, the herbs most certainly have the ability to make me feel a connection with nature and the environment around myself. It makes me comprehend emotions on a much deeper level than when I'm sober. If I had felt paranoid at all, I wouldn't have been outside, alone in the middle of the night, surrounded by darkness and nature. I guarantee you that. Either way, you can believe what you want. I remember thinking how cool and crisp the air was and how much I loved the calm of the night. My parents lived in a suburban neighborhood, and we had a huge backyard full of grass and dotted with a few trees. The silver of the moon was out. A sliver of the moon was out, which may or may not have been silver, and nothing was out of the ordinary. I felt completely at one with nature. I was sitting with my feet hanging off the deck, which is about 10 feet above the grass. It's a 2-story home. Just relaxing and enjoying the night and the music in my headphones. Another side note, it feels good to write this down after nearly 10 years, but I can feel my heart racing as I type this. So, after a few short minutes of listening to music, generally vibing out there on my own, I heard something. I popped one of my headphones out to get a closer listen. As I concentrated on the ambient sounds of the night, I heard a familiar voice coming from somewhere out in the darkness. As the sound became clearer, I realized it was my younger sister's voice. It sounded like she was walking about 100 feet away from me in the backyard. I also heard another one or two voices with her. It sounded like they were having a conversation as they walked. I stood up and took out my other headphones so I could hear them better. I couldn't make out a single word they said. My first reaction was happiness. I felt my legs preparing to jump down off the ledge and onto the darkness, into the darkness. I wanted to run to her and spend some time together because although little sisters can be kind of annoying at times, I missed her when I was off at college. I was happy that she was outside and enjoying the night with her friends. I was opening my mouth to call out to her, formulating the words to ask what she was doing, who she was with, and if they wanted to hang out. But literally, as soon as I was about to speak, my happiness turned into confusion. My brain suddenly stopped my mouth from speaking and started on a train of thought so fast I could barely keep track. No pun intended. It was like my logical brain took control and started asking me questions. Why on earth would she be outside in the middle of the night, talking to people whose voices I didn't recognize in the backyard? I reminded myself that she never goes outside at night, as she's very scared of the dark. But her voice sounded as comfortable as if it were broad daylight. Why would they be walking across the yard anyway? Why were there no flashlights or phone lights illuminating their path? How can they see where they're going out there in the pitch black darkness? They weren't coming or going to or from the house. The direction they were headed led to a fence and another yard of people that we didn't even know. This doesn't make sense, I thought. These problems all popped into my head in the span of a few seconds. What happened next was the first real punch to the gut for me. Looking back, it was as if something out there could read my mind and knew what I was thinking. It knew my thought process, sensed my hesitation maybe. The moment I doubted my sister was really out there, the voices stopped abruptly. It's as if they knew I wasn't falling for the trick anymore. I have goosebumps all over my body as I'm typing this right now. Moments after the voices stopped, I heard what could only be described as a whoosh noise. It sounded like something flew toward me with great speed, gliding across the grass. Remember, I was on a deck about 10 feet off the ground, so this thing seemed to fly underneath me. I couldn't see anything, to be honest. No glowing eyes, no teeth, claws, fur, or any of the normal things people claim to see when something crazy happens to them out in the darkness. The darkness is all I saw the entire time. Whatever it was, the thing moved over 100 feet in less than 1 second. The flying entity seemed to rush right up to the wall below the deck, directly below me, in a terrifying rate of speed. Before I could react to the unsettling feeling of being surrounded by such a fearsome thing, I heard my name being called by a disturbingly powerful voice. The voice didn't sound right. It wasn't a yell, it wasn't a whisper. It was oddly calm and authoritative. I really don't know how better to describe it. For some reason, that continues to puzzle me to this day. I still had the strange urge to jump off the deck and go towards this thing. I remember staring down at the black void beneath me, feverishly asking myself what was down there, how it knew my sister's voice, how it knew my name, what it wanted from me. The area below me seemed impossibly dark, way darker than anything I would really expect to see in nature. I began to feel a mix of terror and anger at this thing for impersonating my sister. All I could think of was to yell back at it. I simply asked, "What?" I don't know how to explain what happened next. The best I can do is to say that I got the feeling that the being lurking below the deck was somehow destroyed by the sound of my voice. It felt like somehow a giant water balloon burst on the ground, pushing the darkness out in every direction. It was as if my challenge somehow managed to scare this thing for a moment. Then I waited, staring into the black. I kept my eyes fixed on the void below me, waiting for a set of nightmarish, shadowy hands or something to reach up and grab me, but nothing else happened. There were no glowing eyes, no screams, no spectral images, nothing, just silence. It was then that my logical brain started to kick in again. I still had to convince myself not to jump down. The fear truly set in when I reminded myself that this thing could not possibly be within the realm of understanding. At least not my understanding. And to try to physically fight it would be a death wish. So, I did what I hope anyone else would do. I ran. I ran inside the house as fast as I could, the whole time waiting to be chased or grabbed by something, but thankfully, nothing happened. I'm happy to report that I never experienced anything like that before, nor have I since that day. Might have said that already. I often rack my brain about what it may have been. If I had to guess, I would say it may have been a Wendigo or a skinwalker or something like that, but parts of the story don't really add up to what I've heard about those creatures. Typically, you would associate those things with screams, glowing eyes, foul smell. None of those things typical to those types of cryptids were a part of my story. If anyone has any clue as to what this was, or why this happened, please let me know. I wasn't in the middle of the woods. I wasn't in some faraway, unknown place. This was my parents' backyard, the place I grew up in. As I said, I saw nothing, really. It was all really based on what I heard and what I felt. I can only imagine what I may have seen had I turned on my phone flashlight and pointed it straight down. Actually, I don't even want to think about that. I hope this story makes it around the internet and gets a discussion going of some sort. What was this thing? Why was it there? What did it want? Why did it use my sister's voice? What were the other voices? What was that whoosh noise? How did it seemingly teleport 100 feet in 1 second? Were there more than one creature? So many questions and literally zero answers. The best advice I could give anyone when it comes to fear is to always believe in yourself and trust your instincts. If something feels off in any way, just get out of there. Don't hang around. Even if something seemingly normal happens in the middle of the night, you should still be cautious and verify. Remember, anything is possible. That's what this encounter taught me. Thanks for listening, Mr. X. Sincerely, John. All right. That was another interesting and very creepy one, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not sure if you guys actually heard the sound effects, and I'd like somebody in the chat to let me know if you did hear anything. I had like the whoosh in there. I had the voice, the girl and the guy talking, the name calling. Let me see. Maybe I'll just throw those in there right now and see if you guys can hear it. You guys hear that? I think that one came through. Yeah. Okay. So looks like some people didn't hear anything, despite the fact that it looks like it should be going. That's really weird. Okay. Do you guys? I probably should have done some sound checks or something before I started all this stuff. Did you guys hear any background, like nighttime sounds or anything like that? How about now? Maybe I just had the volume too low. John. How about now? Tell me if you guys hear that. John. Okay. Well, as I was hoping this didn't happen, but hey, you know, I totally screwed all that up. My apologies. But next time, now I know what to do. I should have done that like after the first story. What an idiot. Anyway, what'd you guys think about those stories? I see people are popping into the comments or into the chat now. Make sure you guys leave a like if you haven't already as well. Maybe that'll help me recover from the YouTube hammers that have been dropped on me in the past year or two. Well, actually just the one big hammer. But I'm glad you guys are happy with, even though it's just my voice, I'm glad you're happy with that. But yeah, I was trying to do this whole ambiance thing and sound effects, but yeah, story of my life, right? Okay, let's see here. Brenda Whitehead. Hello there, my friend. Good to see you. Sleepy. I don't know if I greeted you already. But hey, yeah. So, Brenda's saying, sounded like a mimic. And I've had, that's an interesting idea because I've had only one story with a mimic, if I'm not mistaken. Seems like a very rare type of thing to happen, I guess. I recall, a story where there was a young girl. Okay, so there was a young girl, had her two parents. She was an only child. And one day they went on vacation. They went somewhere for a few days or a couple weeks. And some point during that vacation, a second girl that seemed to be about the same age as the first girl, the daughter, started kind of hanging out with them, kind of just jumped in with their group and following them around. And by the time they got home from this vacation, that girl was still with them. And according to the daughter, her parents had begun to believe that that girl was also their daughter. Like there was like they had a second daughter that they didn't have before they went on that vacation. So something about what that girl did had convinced the parents that, somehow, we just have another 10-year-old daughter that we didn't have before, but almost like they didn't remember a time before that girl was there. So, I don't remember how it ended, but one thing I do remember is that they basically found out, or this girl and her friends basically found out that this second fake daughter had this extremely bizarre and violent reaction to cinnamon. So they baked cookies or something like that, or gave her a cookie with cinnamon, and when she tried to eat the cookie, her entire face turned like black, like ink, like radiating from the mouth. and the girl freaks out and basically reveals that there's something very wrong with her, and she's not a typical little girl, and she's certainly not the daughter of these people. But yeah, that very, very interesting story right there. I have to look that up and refresh my memory on it. But yeah, we only got about 9 minutes left on my time slot here. So let's go to the chat and see what's up. Yeah, you guys, a couple of you guys remember that story from back in the day. Lindsay Ryan, hello there, my friend. Welcome. No worries. This will be up later on, and definitely before I run out of time, I want you guys to go check the description. There's a Horrorcon, Horrorcon VR, links to the website and to the Twitter account, so you can get into the Discord and actually explore the VR environment that Mr. Creepypasta and all the other team members for Horrorcon VR created. Super cool stuff. I'm going to be in there mingling and trying to find my way around and talk to people and hang out after this. My panel is over at, what is it? I'm in Eastern time, so it's going to be 11 Eastern time where I'm over, which is 8 minutes from now. And I think that's 8 p.m. Pacific time, which is where most of you guys are probably coming from. But yeah, I'm going to be over there. Hope to see you all over there. And yeah, we're just going to hang out for a few more minutes to wrap up my time slot and make sure that you guys get over there and see if you can find me. I'll be a blue robot looking guy because I'm not cool enough to have my own avatar in there. So yeah, thanks again for the super chats, Jarrett, Leanne, very much appreciated. Love you guys, especially when people come out of their way and donate and stuff like that. It makes it even better, even more of a rewarding experience. And for those of you who hang out and just listen, just chill, I like knowing that people are just relaxing and listening to my work on here, enjoying the stories, enjoying the sounds when I have the volume loud enough for you to hear them. And yeah, I appreciate everything, especially and most of all the folks that hang out in the chat and actually talk and do stuff like this. I haven't been online recently very much. I know I've been slacking, but I got a lot of other stuff going on. I'm writing a novel series based on my own original story from a couple of years ago. I'm working on that a lot. I'm working an actual job, but I am trying to get on here. And I was playing Among Us last night. I played it for the first time. I'm going to be setting up a way for my subscribers to play Among Us with me, jumping on that trend and see if I can find some joy in that. And I certainly did last night for the first time. It was pretty cool. Crystal, hello there, my friend. You said I have a nice ASMR voice. I appreciate that. I take that as a high compliment. Let's see here. Jerry Hernandez. I don't know if I greeted you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, you said about the story with the other girl, the mimic. You remember hearing about that and you wonder why the parents kept the other girl. I think maybe I need to do a remaster of that story because it was really interesting. And right now I can't seem to remember how that went, but from what I recall, it was something like that. This girl seemed to have some kind of bizarre, almost like hypnotic quality about her, or some kind of influence over the parents, to the point where they were convinced that this was just their daughter and that she's always been there. It's almost like if you watch Rick and Morty. That's where there's an episode where there's this type of creature that basically is a mimic. It will just turn into, it's a random person that gets into your house, and as you spend time with them, you begin to develop memories of them just always being there. And that's how, and these creatures just replicate, and before you know it, your house is full of all these people that you have backstories with that really they really are just imposters, fittingly enough. And we're talking about Among Us and all that stuff. It was really, really, really good episode. My favorite episode by far. Yeah, Sleepy, you're asking about the book. Yes, it's based on The Dreamer. I'm making it into a book series. I've been doing world building for the past like 3 years on it, and I've been writing different things, and it's been expanding like crazy. And I'm super excited to really get into it and continue working on that. That's like a big part of what I do in my off time right now. And I'm thank you for the encouragement, for sure. Let's see. T Tui, hello there, my friend. It's good to see you. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like button. Thanks for the reminder, T Tui. Let's see here. Yeah, you guys remember that Rick and Morty episode? My favorite one. Jarrett asking, why was she immune? Thought the story was really weird considering the original daughter was the only one who knew she was a fake. Why was she immune? Yeah, that's the thing. I wonder about that because, why wouldn't, if this creature has the ability to convince humans that she is a part of their life, why wouldn't she do it for the other people? Maybe it only works on adults. Maybe it only works on a limited number of people. Not sure. You guys are really making me want to revisit that story. And Brenda, thanks so much for the encouraging comments on my book series I'm working on. I'm definitely going to be relying on the Dreamers to help push that out whenever I get into it. And I start getting volume, actual books out there. I have like 4, 5, 6. I think I have 6 books planned for that one. It's gonna be insane. But yeah, hey, I'm running out of time here. I want to thank you all for coming out and supporting me on this stream, on this panel. Come find me. I'm gonna be hanging out for a little bit. I know it's late and I'm an old man. It's late over here on the East Coast anyway. I'm out here in Florida. But I'm going to spend some time in the VR rooms and wandering around. I'll be a big blue robot. Find me over there. Check the links in the description for the Twitter and the website. Get into the Discord and go into there. Go do all that doodly doddly beep boop bop stuff. I don't know. Such a freaking old guy. All right, y'all. I'm going to jump off of here. You all have yourselves a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy that Horrorcon VR experience. Brought to you by a whole team of great people that have been very gracious to me. I want to thank them as well, Mr. Creepypasta, everybody else who's been reaching out to me and helping me out with this. Thank you all, and you all have a great night. Love you guys. I'm Mr. X, and may your nights be full of dreams. Catch you later.